So I finally entered into my third day of grinding in Sword of Convallaria, and I figured why not get into a tier list. Now with that, I have to actually shout out a fellow creator, 3 Mile, who is a TW Sword of Convallaria creator that is not only just a creator, but is a 3-time beta tester. Now on this tier list that I'm going to show you guys, this is all credit to that creator, and I will say, even though I put in the work to translate it, this tier list is something that we are just kind of using as, I would say, kind of as a guideline, just to kind of get a generalized idea, since we are having to go through the process of still trying to translate and figuring out what a lot of units are doing, right? So with that, let's get into the tier list. Now, I think that this tier list is actually pretty fair when we're talking about the logistics of how this game works. So the units are actually tiered according to just their overall usefulness and utility and how they affect the rhythm of the game. Not necessarily just someone being so much absolutely more powerful that the other units are just worse in the lower tiers. That's not necessarily the case. So when we're looking at tier ranking, these are going to be under tier 0, top value in their class. So this isn't just damage, but this is also talking about their overall utility and other things that they bring to the table. So like, for example, Gloria is a unit that's not only able to do really good damage, but she also has a lot of accessibility to being able to buff your team. Or Cole, for example, is another unit that's going to be able to do a lot of damage and just have a lot of opportunities to do damage in conjunction to a couple of other movement things that this unit has as well. Now, when we're looking at tier 1, now tier 1 units, I have to give this disclaimer, a lot of these units are actually pretty close to being tier 0, but they either have a unit slotted in tier 0 already, so then they drop to tier 1, or they just honestly are at that point, which again is still really good. They offer a lot of value in most maps, and like, for example, one of them that you just kind of get to see go crazy right off the bat is Lavier, and she is literally broken. We're talking about ground and pounding with the great sword, swinging her sword and killing entire mobs by herself. So yeah, I don't think that these units by no means are slouches, but again, when you're just talking about just being able to build teams, they might have 1 or 2 units that might be over them, but that's okay because they still hold a lot of value. Now, when you're looking at your tier 2 units, these are still excellent pickups, but they have about your average utility. And I think that that's pretty fair. With these units, they're going to be essentially units that are going to kind of help you fill out your team. And depending on what they do, it could either be, you know, a mage or a tank or a guard, you know, for example, or even a healer. So then going into tier 3, these are going to be your last/secondary, depending on what you have, choices. And these are usually units that I will say, for the most part, are kind of like the more generic units. So like, for example, you have the pharmacist or the dancer or the mercenary. And these are technically SR units, but primarily majority of this tier list is going to be emphasizing the SSRs, but it does have a couple of the SRs on here. And these units, again, are still going to be just as good and just as fine to get you through the game. Because even for me personally, I'm using the Kingdom Blade unit, and that unit is literally getting me through damn near everything in the game right now. Now, I also went and I took the liberty of giving you guys the classification and as well as the names of all the units. So we'll go through those. Now, under the tank/guard/warrior, we have Misha and Magnus in tier 1. We have Nurgle in tier 2, and then we have Titan in tier 3. And then under nurse, healer, and trainer, we have I think it's Anna. We also have Samantha, Bella in tier 2, and then we have in tier 3 pharmacist, radiant maid, and dancer, which are technically SRs, but again, these were units that were predominantly played in the beta, which is why they actually made it to this. So again, I think this is going to be adjusted as the TW version continues to develop, but again, I just want to kind of give you guys at least an English translation of something you can visibly or tangibly use to kind of help you out with deciding, right? Now, the damage/output, you're going to have in T0 Cole and Gloria, T1 Lavier, you have Lingao, Lilyware, you have Garcia, EQ, you have Xavier, and you have D'Italio, right? And then also in tier 2, you have Lutfi, Miguel, Novel, you have Lunead, and then you have Guzman. And then in tier 3, lastly, you have Fakar, Mercenary, Kingdom Blade, and Judge, right? Now, this again is something that I would say you can take with a grain of salt, but it is going to give you a good generalized baseline of what units are going to be really good. Now, again, emphasizing the point that this does not mean that these units are bad because they're in tier 3, so you can't use them or there's just no point in investing in them. It's just the point of, if you do get some of the higher tier ones, the value in investing in those units are going to be much, much higher than obviously those other ones, just because they give you more utility, more damage, healing, whatever it is, defensive capabilities that they do. Now, one thing I do want to kind of highlight as well are the current banners that are currently up in the game. Now, the banners that we have up right now, this one is actually going to be emphasizing Samantha, and it's also going to have Leonid on there, which is the other unit that's on this banner as well. Now, I will say that this is a unit that I actually was able to pull off of my guaranteed, so I'm not actually aiming for this banner. I would probably say for most people, they'll probably be aiming for trying to get Samantha off of this banner, considering that she seems to be like the really solid and really honestly second best healer in the game. And then when we're looking at the second banner, we have Cole, who is in the T0 for damage, right? And I definitely will say that's probably a unit that I'm going to be trying to aim for. It's also paired up with, or Cole is paired up with Bella. Now, Bella does fall into tier 3, and I mean, or sorry, tier 2. But I mean, this is still a unit that you might want to snag. I think that one of the things that this game is really bringing to the table is being able to pick up units that you kind of like, right? Obviously, you still have to consider attributes and things of that nature, but I really do feel like they're going to have the gacha set up to where you're really going to be pulling for units that you typically like, not so much of just meta, right? Now, in the next few videos, I will be getting a little bit more into some of the other forms of content that I've unlocked, but I definitely wanted to get this video out so that you guys had a good baseline of what you could utilize to be able to, you know, kind of get an idea of what to select and, you know, try to gacha for. Now, I will also have some translations coming as well as characters, kits overall, just to kind of sum up and give you an overview. I am in the works of translating all of that stuff, which is why I did not include it in this video, because that's just a lot, and I actually will have its own separate video, because keep in mind, we're not in the global version yet, so we're not really rushing to do any re-rolling or anything like that, but trust and believe this is going to be one of the best spots and channels for you to get that information. So again, shout out to 3 Mile for putting together the initial list and honestly just being a fellow creator within the community. So again, guys, stay blessed, and yes, stay charged up.